Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Okay, welcome everyone to what is today, the May 13th Planning and Zoning meeting. We'll do roll call. I don't see our secretary here, so I guess I will do it. Mark Pavazza here, Brian Nolan. Here. Lisa Shearing.
Here.
Jeff Moore.
Here.
Jeff Hunt.
Here.
Carl Carlin.
Here.
Matt Foreman.
Here.
I believe that is quorum. Okay, moving on, we, approval of the agenda, approval of the agenda. I, believe, do we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Passes. Moving on. The approval of minutes from the April 8th, 2026 meeting. Do I,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, as noted or discussed, I think there's a few comments missing from the second new business case. So if we could have those added and reviewed again at the next meeting.
so do we need a vote for that, or since they're going to be
No.
corrected?
We'll bring it, just motion to continue so we can bring back the corrected minutes at the next meeting.
Okay, so do we get a motion to, and a second?
To consider.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we will get the corrected minutes at the next meeting. And let's see, citizen comments. Is there anyone in the audience or online who wish to discuss something not on tonight's agenda? Not seeing anyone? Okay. Okay, moving on to old business, case number 26-002, the site development plan for the new 9-unit townhome development at 8815 Madge Avenue. Is the petitioner here? Okay, please come forward to the podium, state your name and address.
Ashim Lamichane and address.
Of like who you're representing and,
Oh, so I'm the owner and
Okay.
I'm here with Arun Lamichane. He's a co-owner of the new development there.
okay. And we need an address on that, or we're good?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, an address, state where you currently live or your
Oh, sure.
business currently resides.
Yeah. So 11 Deer Creek Woods, St. Louis, Missouri, 63124
Okay,
is where I live. And
okay. And since it's old business, go ahead and,
do we just get?
yeah,
Reintroduce the
yeah,
project.
reintroduce, yeah, tell us what's going on.
Sure. Again, first of all, I would like to start with a greeting. Good evening, everyone. Chairman, council members, and city staff. Again, my name is Ashim Lamichane. I have here Arun Lamichane. We own the property at 8815 Madge Avenue. We've been owning it since 2022 and have a plan to presented a plan last time to develop a 9-unit townhome. So we also do have Mark Doring, who's a principal engineer for this project, joining us virtually. He's in Florida. He said when the weather gets better here, he'll come to St. Louis.
Okay,
So it's getting better. First of all, I would like to sincerely thank the commission here and then the city staff for your patience and continued guidance throughout this review process. I especially appreciate the understanding over the past several months as I've been navigating through some personal challenges while moving this project as well. Since our initial review meeting in February, we've carefully reviewed some of the feedback and comments provided by the city as well as the council members. And we are here to present updated elevation from the Madge Avenue. That was what was requested. New roof design of all the buildings to show a little bit more architectural character, as well as perspective view of the buildings from different sides of the street. So that's what we are here to present today. And we believe the new design with additional architectural detail makes the front elevation from the Madge Avenue really appealing. However, we remain committed to continue to working with everyone here and then the staff to address any remaining concerns and then refine the project appropriately.
So as the applicant has indicated, they are seeking approval for site development plan for the permitted use of a multifamily development in the Plan Development Overlay District for 8815 Madge. Since the last meeting of February 11th, when this was discussed, they have revised the elevation for the front rendering facing Madge. However, the site plan does not reflect the new change. So those need to be addressed to ensure that it's compliant with the zoning code. The existing building is at the 25-foot setback, so the front porch is, and this new bump out in front of that, so we would need to verify that it is still consistent with the zoning code requirement of a minimum of 25 feet front yard setback. Sorry about that. So as you can see here, this new front elevation and widening of the front patio is not clearly reflected on the site plan, so that would need to be revised. Then we have the left renderings with showing landscaping in the gray vinyl fencing at the property line, and a rendering with the adjacent commercial to the east. Oh. It's stuck, so let's give it a minute. Yep. So there's the left rendering, right rendering, in the rendering, it's hard to tell, but one of the prior comments was that the building materials need to be carried around to all sides. The garage side was not showing the brick. You can see a little bit of it at this corner. Here, I'm going to switch to you can see a little bit of it at this corner. However, the elevation drawings are not showing that it's been carried around. So that would need to be revised as well. Overall, the building materials remain the same. I think the other issue that was discussed was that the light fixtures were more of a commercial style light fixture. They have been added. They have included a photometric plan that shows that lighting would not leave the property. Andy Frank with Planning Design Studio is here to provide comments on the landscaping if you would like to hear from him now.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Andrew Frankie. I'm with Planning Design Studio. We're the city's on-call landscape architect. I have to say that, just I think for the record. We reviewed the petitioner's recent submittal, and I believe you guys probably in your packet have our responses to those. There were just a few items there in red. Our responses are in red for the ones that still needed to be addressed. The first one, as Whitney talked about, was lighting. And just for the record, there is a little bit of light spillover on the east property line, 0.1 foot candle. So just to kind of put that in perspective, a foot candle is the amount of light that a candle produces 1 foot away from the candle. Probably in here, there's about between 30 and 50-foot candles, so that kind of gives you a gauge. It's not very much light. The other thing that I'm not sure that their diagram took into account is the effect of the fence along that property line as well. One question that we didn't note in here, but we had as Whitney was talking, just came to mind, is we were unsure how high up on the building those lights are mounted. If you go back to the rendering from the parking lot, there, you might see that, but I doubt it, because if you look at the cut sheet of the fixture, it's recessed in there, so you're not going to see like a bulb hanging down or anything with a source of light. But again, if it's a little bit higher in the building, you might have some light coming at you from that. Just a consideration to think about. Our other comment was about the fence. I believe we had a discussion about that at the last meeting, and it was to be gray. We just didn't get the cut sheet, but we did, and the gray fence is adequate. Our third comment was about the chain link fence. We were going back and forth. Is it in? Is it out? It sounds like now with the most recent plans that the chain link fence will be removed. Correct? And we will have the vinyl fence will be behind that. That's what it appears to be on the submittal. Correct? Probably need to say that in here.
In terms of the chain link fence, we are happy to remove that. We just need to get approval from or permission from the neighbor.
Because they probably own that wall, I'm guessing, right? Correct. Yeah. Okay. Our last comment was actually a landscape item about the trees along Madge Avenue. We requested a cultivar which was shorter, grows 6 to 10 feet tall, so it would stay out of the overhead electric line, and the resubmitted drawings show a smaller cultivar, if you're interested, named Nana, that will grow within that range. So that was the extent of our review questions, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you guys have any.
I will just add the lights on the front elevation of the townhomes facing east are near the front door, so they would be below that fence line or right at the fence, depending on. The rear elevations is near the door for the decks, so that would be at the second level.
Questions from commissioners? Commissioner Foreman?
So, thank you. I was the one that made the comment last time on the perspectives and putting it in context with the other building. So I see a 0.1, a 0.2 lighting, but it's at the north. Did I hear that?
Yeah, you're correct. There is a little bit of spillover.
The commercial property to the north.
Right. No fence over there either. So, you're correct.
There was some question last time on the landscaping about existing and new and the property line on the west. Can't remember if we had open issues for you or not, though.
I don't remember that comment. I do know we asked for the petitioner to show all the existing trees over there, which he's done.
Okay.
But, and he's putting some retaining walls in there to preserve them as well, which he showed on his landscape plan, I believe. There's a kind of an arc-shaped, if you look at the landscape plan, near an existing tree in that location.
Anything else on the landscape site?
Yes. Commissioner Shearing?
I was just curious, I know that in our staff report, there's a short section on parking, and it says that they have 2 spaces per unit, if you will, and those are in a garage. So I'm just curious, if they have more than 2 vehicles, since these are family units, or if they have visitors, where is there available parking for them?
The drive aisle is 25 feet wide. Since the building has to meet the 50-foot setback, the drive aisle that they're showing is 25. Normal drive, 2-lane drive aisle with 90-degree parking in a commercial setting is 23. So there could be sufficient parking on the existing drive. However, or they could have an agreement with the commercial property for evenings, for occasional visitor parking.
Yeah.
But the code only requires 2 parking spaces per unit, and we can't require additional parking.
So I guess, will there be designated signs that say that they can park on that back section of that 25 feet, or? I'm just curious, because the commercial property that you're referring to has a problem with parking now when they have Pilates classes.
Right. Yeah, do you want to address the parking?
As Whitney mentioned, the driveway is wide enough that we can mark few, up to 5 visitor parking spots more towards the north side.
And you intend to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
If that is something we do want to include as a condition of approval, we would need to have that added. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should include that because it's not shown on here at all with the
We
parking.
can
But-
add that.
So there's only 5 spots?
No, that's just a visitor spot, but the requirement is we should have 2 parking spots per unit, and we have 18 parking spots under the building for each unit. We're meeting the requirement, but because the commission is requesting additional parking spots, but in case visitors, we are happy to provide that more towards on the north side, northwest side.
Would they be parallel or would they be 90 degree?
Parallel parking.
Okay. And I had a question for staff. When the code says 2 parking spots per unit, does that include garage or is that outside of the garage?
It includes garage.
Okay, and I know some cities maybe that's different.
Yeah, there are some cities that do it a little bit differently. They'll have covered and then they'll have uncovered. But ours is just 2 parking spaces are required per dwelling unit, so 18, whether they're covered in a garage, outside of a garage.
Okay. So it meets the requirement of the code, but I'm concerned that people will use the garages for storage and they won't necessarily park there. So I think the more spots that you can have and can fit on that driveway, the better. And I don't know how you do that because it's not shown, but it seems like there may be enough room to have some parallel or something that people, they'll need to turn around and come out, but I think that's going to be the biggest challenge.
And again, that was more of a request from the commission here. And like I said before, we want to work with the commission as well as staff to ensure that the design and what we're putting together kind of meets and satisfies the need of everybody.
I don't want to be a contrarian here, but if you park in the 25-foot drive aisle and somebody has to back out of the garage, I don't think that's going to work. I mean, think about when you're at Target, and you have literally, if a parking space is normally 18 feet wide, so you need about that length to get out before you can turn. If you consume part of that 25, I don't know if you'll be able to.
But if they're parking behind the unit in which they're visiting the unit, and someone else
Exactly.
is
I just-
outside, yeah.
Yeah, then
it would be
it's,
enough.
but if somebody parks, that's visiting and parks 3 up, they might, and they can't get a hold. It's just something to be aware of.
That's right. There maybe you need to look at having a turnaround up there at the north spot
I don't think there's
because
enough room up there for turnaround, but It's just, I just wanted to point that out because typically you need the full, that's why they're 24 feet wide. So,
I think we need to keep the context that they're satisfying the requirements that they have under the code. And they're offering to provide 5 additional spots. That seems like it's more than appropriate.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, I agree that there's a set of requirements, as established by code that they have to meet. I think that, we, in considering a PD area, we can take some of these things into consideration because they will have an effect on the neighborhood. So I'm thinking, before I go on a long spiel, that the last time we saw the project, I appreciate the updated renderings, it's very helpful. Definitely some improvements that I see in the design, but it's complicated enough and there's enough moving parts. We were close to moving it into the site plan review process last time, and then we paused for applicants' reasons. I'm not saying we just pull the debate and do that right now, but I have a feeling there's enough complicated discussion here that it might be helpful. And I'll summarize why I think that. It falls into the requirements of the PD district, but it's very dense, and that density brings a lot of challenges to get it right. So it's dense, it's large, it's on this edge between commercial and residential. It's not an impossible balance to hit, but it's a difficult balance to hit, and I personally don't know if we've met that balance yet. So that discussion could happen now. It could happen in a dedicated meeting where we can take out buff paper and trace and do things, right? So that's, in my own process, that's what I would suggest, because otherwise I probably have a good half hour of comments to go through.
Okay.
But that's the suggestion I make. So I'll leave that for now.
Any other comments from the commission or questions? Is there anyone online that would like to comment?
No one is raising their hand.
No one's raising their hand. So I guess that leaves us, do we have a motion to either? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, yes. Sorry, in the audience, yes.
Steve Lockmiller, 8831 Madge. We were going to have some residents here, but this has been kind of kicked back several meetings and they weren't able to attend. One of the concerns I have is the topography of the existing lot, and I couldn't quite see in those diagrams if there's quite a bit of fill dirt in there, if that's all going to be removed and how that's going to lay out from street. It looks like it's at street level, but then I think it still rises as it gets to the north end of that. So if they could just comment on the topography of the area.
Sure. Could you comment on that, please?
So in terms of if you look at the site plan, it kind of gives you how it kind of goes up a little bit. I quite did not understand, like, what would you want to see more?
Sure, yeah. Come back up.
Right now, the lot, if you go and look at it, if you're at street level, it rises quite a bit as you go to the north. Is all that dirt coming out so that you are level, street level, the entire length of that lot?
The answer is no. I think there's a great difference of, if you compare, look at the site plan. If you look at the front and then the back, I believe there's total of 5 feet of difference when you go all the way to the north side. And that's how the buildings are. When you look at the buildings, they're also set about 2 feet lower than each to basically accommodate the grade difference. Does that help?
Thank you.
Quick.
Yes.
So to clarify, the roof line of all 3 buildings is the same.
Will
The
not
gra-
be same. If you look at, there's a slight difference in rear elevation. The one As you go north, it will be a little bit higher than when you're on the south because just of the difference in grade.
If you read the site plan, if you want to pop that back up and see if you can zoom in, Whitney.
It's very slight to really tell the difference because it's about 2 feet.
So the existing topography is in a light gray line, and the new topography are the dark diagonal lines. So he is, especially between the second and third units away from the street, they're cutting down a little bit and kind of leveling out, but they're not changing any grades around the perimeter, so they're not disturbing any neighbors. And there is about each one of those diagonal lines is 1 foot of rise from the street as you drive north. So they're gonna pick up, it'll be, if you were standing on the sidewalk looking north, the north end of the parking lot is about eye level. It slopes up that much across the depth of the site. But that's the slope that's there. They've kind of taken out the hill in the middle. Oh, yeah. That's not nearly that much to move. We're talking like quarter to half inch per foot would move water. This would be fine. I'm not worried about that at all. But that was one of the reasons we asked for the overall elevation, because they do step up hill as they go north.
I just had a quick question. Does the fire department need to review that drive lane?
They have reviewed it. Prior to them submitting, we sat down with the applicant and with the fire department to provide comments. Yeah.
And one additional thing, based on their feedback from the fire department, we are also adding a fire hydrant about 25, I would say about 30 feet or 35 feet into the property.
I just saw that on the rendering, and that's
Yeah.
what made me think about it.
Yes.
And that was an ask from the fire department.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's any stomach from anyone else on the board to move it into a site plan review. If there,
I have more comments just like you do, especially the south elevation.
okay, because I don't want to move to a motion to vote on it without spewing my piece. But if we're going to do that in another meeting, I won't do it twice. So I just was.
Whitney, I have a question. Are the site plan reviews open to the public as well?
Yes.
So that could be an opportunity for neighbors to
Some as well.
interact.
Right. And if you would like, we could send out the notice for that. Okay.
And just to be clear, so I can give us, I'm not trying to be sneaky about it. Like I have some, I mean, you did take some steps toward breaking up the massing of this very large and dense project. I don't feel it went far enough, and I have concerns about the expression of the west side that faces the neighborhood, right? So again, we could do that here, or if we know we're going to have a site plan meeting, we could do it there, which might be a better forum for it. I leave that to everyone else to tell me.
I agree with that, but I think you might want to give them some direction so that they can maybe think about some of these issues and maybe look at some of that before the meeting, so that would make that meeting more productive.
Sure. Should I do that now? So could you go to the one of the renderings? Doesn't really matter which one right now. That's a good place to start. So the trouble with the zoning setback notwithstanding, the effort to sort of break down the mass of the front face is recognized. I can see how and why you did it. It does help, it's better because now you get the sense of like, if you carry that front 2-story volume over into the neighborhood, you can imagine that lining up with other 2-story or 1.5-story homes. The remainder of the building is still present, but you're definitely breaking it up to give it a sense of, scale change. If you look at the rendering down below, I think is that the west elevation? Yeah, which goes right to the heart of the issue for me. On the east elevation, you've broken up the roof line, I believe you mentioned, and at least it looks like you did. And that gives the sense of a more individualized unit sense, right? So there's ways you can do that. There's massing, which you did with the roof. There's colors. There's material changes. There's shift and things. All kinds of games you can play to like break up a large thing into a small series of small things, right? So you've done some of that, but you've done none of that on this face, right? And this is the face that the neighbors will encounter, right? So if it's almost more important on this face, honestly, in my opinion, than the other face, right? Because the other face is sort of the commercial face. It's very possible that at some point those buildings will be raised on Brentwood and something tall will be built there. Your buildings may end up never being seen again once that happens. I think that little pathway where the front doors are is going to get kind of miserable if that ever happens, actually. Like, I think it's a lot to ask, actually, for this site, but I'll, suspend my disbelief until we talk more. But I feel like this side really needs to be addressed with almost equal level of passion as the other side. I understand that it entails expense, and I'm sorry, but it's not detailed enough to face the neighbors. And if you imagine the space between this face and the fence line, which is by zoning setback quite a distance, that gives you a lot of perspective view to look at it, right? You can see it, right? So that's got to look like you understand that to me, right? It's not the back of anything. Unfortunately, this building has at least 3 front sides, right? And the same things you did to the roof on the Brentwood side, something similar could happen here. It would also break it up and make it feel a little bit less massive in terms of shadowing over the neighborhood, right? So those are all things, again, challenging site, challenging massing. I appreciate the effort. I think we're missing some things, at least for me. And then as far as the lighting goes, it's important to me. It's a very small piece of a much bigger picture that other things have to be addressed. So I could live with modern light fixtures or, carriage lights. I don't care, right? What else? I had a question for staff. The drive aisle is 25 feet wide. The building faces setback. Is there anything controlling the width of the pavement?
The first 25 feet where adjacent to residential is to be landscape buffer, and the building setback is 50 feet. So they could narrow the drive.
No, but they can't widen it.
Right, they cannot widen it at this time.
Because 25 feet has to be landscape.
Right.
With deference to landscape, that's a shame, because it does no one any good, and they could widen it to get parking in there, and that would fix some problems, right? Because that landscape is unused. Nothing will ever happen with it. It's just a maintenance problem.
If you remember, as part of the commercial design guidelines, there was talk about, we just have not pursued the text amendment at this time, to reducing the 25-foot setback where there's a lower scale development adjacent to residential, similar to where, like the MC district and the GC district, where it's a 12-foot setback or 13-foot setback versus 25-foot here. But that text amendment has not been presented at this time, so if that were to be pursued at a later date, that would allow them to widen the drive a little bit at that time.
Thank you. So anyway, those are some of the concerns that I have. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So similar and back to the topography as well, if we go much wider, if there were an amendment, it's kind of steep back there right now to match the existing. We'd probably be getting into retaining wall. Lovely topic for the site plan review.
I concur.
Some of the comments, I think the renderings aren't quite in sync with the elevations. And we've seen this recently where we've been getting, shall I say, computer-assisted renderings that don't necessarily hang together with the actual drafted elevations. So some of the datum lines where you've got some of the band boards and the articulation on the east faces of the building, and some of where those datums wrap along the south and then around the west seem a little disconnected. And then the south elevation, for sure, you've added kind of a pop-out on the building that I think, Whitney, you said the porch and that pop-out may be over the setback lines.
Well, they're not represented on the site plan correctly. The original site plan had the building at the 25-foot setback, so that the bump out would be over that, but they have not provided an update rendering.
But I think just
Updating, yeah, we'll
update,
take a
resolve,
note and,
coordinate the drawings so we can really tell where things are landing. I think the articulation on the west also, and I do think the sharp cutoff modern fixtures being shown now, because there was a discrepancy last time. The rendering was showing something more like open lantern residential looking, and now those have been updated. I'm not,
we wanted to, for that, we wanted to ensure that the light fixtures do not have spillover, and I know that was one of the big concerns. And trying to strike the fine balance between trying to keep the light within the property and not disturb the neighbors. I think that's where we did, but we would love to, when we get to site plan review, if team members have other feedback and ideas, we would love to explore those options as well.
Any other comments?
One thing I do want to go back to, in terms of, I know you mentioned about west elevation. The west elevation is more of a side elevation for neighbors, and we would love to see if there's any examples that you had thought, Carl, that would be helpful. That way we can incorporate that.
Again, I understand the temptation to think of it as a side elevation, but I don't see it that way.
Okay.
Right? Like it's really, the west elevation is really harder to see, frankly, than the east elevation, right? Because it's up against a wall, there's buildings up against it. It's actually harder to see. It's understandable that you put the design energy into it because that's the front of the building, in quotes, but it's really kind of not, right? And this is what people will see the most of, right? The Madge face is a narrow, tiny little thing, which you have addressed, which I appreciate, but it's small. It's not really what they see. They're going to see this, right? And because they're seeing it across a very wide, flat, landscape drive, 25 feet plus 25 feet. So it's like 50 feet. You're going to see all of this, right, as you're driving down Madge. So in some ways, this is not a side elevation. This is almost as much a front elevation. By code, it might have some other name, but as far as experience, it's a front elevation, right? And so to look for an example, like the example would be the other side of your building, right?
that's where they did a very nice job interpreting. It seems like you've got the three-dimensional models built. So figure 4 on page 2 of staff report, the bottom one's Whitney, the rendering at the. So that one right there, you're south of the building looking northwest. If you went 100 yards with your camera, virtual camera, if you went 100 yards west and you looked northeast, you would see the view you're talking about.
That makes sense. No, totally. Thank you.
Yeah, and again, I understand it's all has complications, I understand, but that breakdown of the long roof lines, facing the smaller houses in the neighborhood with the smaller residential units would, I think, have the effect of contextually merging it with that smaller residential language, right? And so, like it did successfully where you did it, So I think that would help because again, I do worry about that east-west elevation. I'm getting confused now. Sorry. The elevation on the top of the image, which is the west elevation, right? Yeah. Sorry, so I was misspeaking earlier, but I worry about that one, the way it's shown.
No, that makes sense. And thank you for clarifying that as well. So I appreciate it.
And I do think there's a number of elements you've got on the east. You've already got gable ends you brought, but you also have a spot where you've popped up the shed. In between the gables, there's actually a pop-up of a shed, just a shallow bay. Something like that on the west in the center could, differentiate that and break up those lines.
I mean, honestly, like to stay within the stylistic continuum of the work you've already done, I would say the best example is what you've already done on the other side, right? So.
Okay, so are there any other comments, questions? Sounds like we're leaning towards a pardon me, oh, I'm sorry.
Site plan.
Yes, site plan committee.
Committee meeting, yeah.
Committee meeting, yes.
There's,
pardon me.
there's a motion drafted in the thing, but my screen went dark. I'll find it. Give me one second.
Okay, so I guess, do we have a motion?
I can do it.
Okay. Oh,
Got it on, okay. I move to recommend we continue the discussion at the May 27th site plan review.
that's correct date, May 27th?
Yes.
That would be 6 PM?
Correct.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second. Oh.
Second, all right. Take a vote. Brian Nolan?
Yes.
Lisa Shearing?
Yes.
Jeff Moore?
Yes.
Jeff Hunt?
Yes.
Carl Carlin?
Yes.
Matt Foreman?
Yes.
Okay, it's unanimous. We will do the May 27th site plan committee meeting. Okay, thank you very much.
you.
We'll see you there. Next order of business is, our new business is the nomination of officers for the Planning and Zoning Commission. So I'm not really sure.
So we just need
Yeah.
nominations for the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary. This is done every year. Nominations are taken in May, at the May meeting, and then voted upon at the June meeting, which will be June 10th. So
Do we know, has anybody pulled their name out of consideration?
we have not.
Okay.
So,
We can nominate in any order. Okay, so people just speak up.
I nominate Hart Nelson for chair.
We don't need to vote on any of that. So people just
No, we
speak
vote.
up and put a nomination in. Okay, right.
What job do you have right now?
I'm the vice chair.
I nominate Mark Favazza for vice chair.
I nominate Paul Moran for secretary. Not here, you're in
Get for
trouble.
not showing up.
right, so
Anyone else want to make nominations? Is that it?
anyone else? Yeah.
Okay.
So we will carry this as additional old business at the June 10th meeting.
Okay, great. Moving on, aldermanic report. Nope, our one alderman says nope, no report. And then Director of Planning and Development report, Whitney.
So we have the site plan subcommittee at 6 PM on May 27th, and the next meeting is June 10th, which we will have this item back at. We have not received an application, another new application yet, but if something were to come in, we will always try to get it on the agenda.
Okay, great. And next meeting is June 10th. I believe that is everything. We are finished. Thank you, everyone.